But Stig wouldn't waste another. He took the box and hid it in his bed. It was clear he thought a match was a very precious thing indeed. Stig came back to the fire with his hands full of chestnuts. He put them in the ashes, and they lay and waited until the chestnuts popped. Then they hooked them out with the gear lever and blew on them and ate them. There were plenty of nuts in Stig's hoard, and Barney ate 23. He felt wonderfully full and warm, and lay looking at the fire and at the shadows dancing on the walls of the cave. But Stig was squatting with a faraway look in his eyes and a piece of charred board in his hand, looking towards the blank wall of the cave. He seemed to be looking through it, not at it. He moved up to the wall, his eyes fixed intently, as though he was watching something interesting through a window. Then suddenly he attacked the white wall with his blackened stick. On the chalk he made sweeping black lines, and there was the outline of a galloping horse. More fierce scrapes of the stick, and there was a stag with antlers galloping. Soon there were little men running with spears and bows and arrows. Barney was hopping with excitement. "Stig, you are a good drawer. I wish I could draw pictures like that. No, do some more, Stig. Oh, the men are killing the deer." For there was a spear stuck in the shoulder of a galloping deer, so that it hurt to look at it. But Stig took no notice and did not seem to be aware of Barney, for Stig was not thinking about making pictures. He was out there with the hunt, galloping with the animals, running with the hunters, and his hands, practiced as they were at working with hard flint and tough bone, went on drawing the springy black lines on the white walls as if they could not help it. Barney watched the hunting scene grow on the cave wall, and the last thing he thought about was time. There was no clock in Stig's cave, not one that went anyway. He went back to the fire to make it up and caught a glimpse of the darkness outside the entrance. It was night, and he had to get back to the house through the dark and alone. "Stig, I've got to go," he said, but Stig didn't hear. Barney looked at Stig's collection of weapons leaning up against the entrance. There was a spear with a long shaft of smooth hazelwood and a head of glinting flint. It quivered when he picked it up, as if it were alive. "Stig, can I borrow one of your spears to see me home?" Barney asked. Stig turned his head and saw Barney with the spear and grinned. Barney took that as permission to have the spear, though Stig was probably still lost in the excitement of the hunt. Barney took a piece of wood from the fire, one end of which was flaming brightly, and with the spear in the other hand he crept out. It was pitch dark and very cold. An icy wind made the flame of his torch flicker. He hoped it wouldn't go out. As he made his way along the bottom of the pit, he kept the spear ready just in case. Perhaps the bears and things were asleep for the winter. Perhaps there weren't any bears. After all, this was nowadays, wasn't it? The only dangerous things were motor cars when you crossed the road. Or was it nowadays? It was difficult to feel sure in the dark at the bottom of the pit. There was something squatting in his path. Barney gripped his spear tightly and held it poised. It was all right. It was the big can with "Slap It On" paint printed on it. He gave it a friendly kick as he passed it and climbed up into the copse. And as he went through the trees, a white thing swept towards him through the air. Without thinking, he jabbed at it wildly with his spear. But the owl, for that's what it was, swerved away sharply and ghosted off into the dark. "Off with you, Mr. Owl," said Barney crossly. "What do you mean by trying to frighten me?" He was soon out of the copse, and by the time he reached the house, he was sorry to have come in out of the dark. He put out the torch in the water butt, put the spear in the broom cupboard, and changed his shoes. His grandmother and sister were sitting at the table, eating crumpets. "Barney, where have you been? Were you up in your room this whole time?" "No, Granny. I'm sorry I'm late, but I've been out with Stig." You've been out in the cold and dark all this time? Oh, Barney!" "I wasn't cold, really, Granny, but poor Stig was nearly frozen to death, and I had to warm him up with his axe. It wasn't sharp enough to cut down the little trees, so we cut down a big one, and the saw got stuck, so I had to climb up it and pull it down, and then we cut it up and pushed it down into the pit, and Stig tried to light the fire with a chair leg and an egg cup and a television aerial, but I showed him how to strike matches, and we ate chestnuts. And, Lou, Stig's jolly good at drawing horses and things, and he was still drawing when I left with a piece of blackboard on the chalk." Lou giggled. "Granny, Barney said that Stig was drawing on a blackboard with a chalk. He meant chalk on a blackboard." Barney decided to join in the laughter. They didn't ask him any more questions after that, but Barney felt happier about helping Stig with his firewood than he did about all the presents that he had got for Christmas.